Well, it's another great morning, a good Sunday with a beautiful sun outside. It wasn't that way this morning earlier, but it is that way now. And I just wanted to say good morning and thank all of you for tuning in this morning. It is just a lone ranger doing it today, but that doesn't mean that we can't espouse things. So I will say good morning and welcome to the Speaker's Corner, where currently today we have one corner, but I will make it as bountiful and giving of thoughts, concepts, and ideas as possible. Sorry to shake the camera a little bit. Should have done that before, but in any case. All right, so the things that are going on this week, let's speak briefly about the political realm, right? So Trump is doing quite a bit. Trump is in the news. Trump is in the conversations. Trump is everywhere. And I guess let me just throw out an idea here. What if Trump had all of his supporters, instead of his supporters speaking about, going to his rallies and giving him money, because Lord knows he has plenty of money, why don't we just have Trump bring all of the people who support him, put in those little hair things that make it look like it's a Trump comb over? Maybe that would be, instead of people wearing a little pin on their lapel, they can wear a Trump comb over, and that way that you'll know that you're a Trump supporter. I just think we ought to Google that image and make that a thing. I heard someone mention a Trump Ben Carson ticket. Anybody have ideas on that? I kind of like Ben Carson, but he kind of strikes me a lot like Dan Quayle. Maybe some good ideas and probably not an idiot, but whenever he gets on the public stage, says a bunch of stuff, puts his foot in his mouth. But I guess that brings me to a concept. I really enjoy this time in a political experience. This time in a presidential debate, in a presidential race, is the one where there's lots and lots of ideas and people are throwing things against the wall and seeing what sticks. And this, to me, is the magic of when we all as Americans feel like there's an opportunity for our ideas to be thought of, heard, brought up, and implemented. There is still some chance that, hey, the fair tax came up last week where somebody brought up a concept that I've always been a big proponent of. You got Ben Carson talking about putting drones to watch the southern border of the United States instead of putting men on that border. He was talking about putting drones there, and hey, that may be a much more efficient way to do that. And then that got construed into drones should be shooting people on the border, and that again takes it to the ridiculousness section. It doesn't always happen, but it's good to bring up ideas. So drones, speaking on drones, and I'm just going to espouse, but I actually got a drone yesterday, picked one up. I should go and grab it for you. It's a little quadcopter. And when I say little, it is literally that big. Fit it on my hand if I needed to. And so that size of drone sounds a lot like a mosquito when it goes wing. But it does make a thing. It does make a noise. It does do the thing. And if you get it calibrated correctly, is a really cool little thing, because you can just have it float there in the air and it magically figures out what it is, and you can tell it to turn one way or the other, and it just kind of goes and doesn't do dumb things. But as soon as it's out of calibration, you're fighting it the whole way. So I just wanted to share that as a little piece of toy of fun. I took it up onto the roof, and whenever I was up on the roof, it was I was nervous the whole time that I was going to fly it over the end and it was just going to fall off the face of the earth. But hey, it was $30. So for $30, that's as much as a lot of us pay on dinner. So it's really not the end of the world if that thing dies and never works again. And I've just given $30 to the China Industrial Complex, turning lithium that China generally has in a monopoly on into these LiPo batteries that we all rely upon to do the things that we do. So there you go. Speaking of energy, Usain Bolt apparently won another 100-meter dash in some world event at 9.3 seconds or some ridiculous number for his 100-meter dash. That man is probably not regular, some sort of freak of whatever, in addition to the magic that happens when you get full modern magical innovation put onto somebody's feet, and the shoes that they're wearing, the tape that they put across their muscles, the spring that's in the rubber in the road, and all these things that they're doing to give them a little bit extra edge. So in any case, so let's speak about data for a second. So in the presidential race, the emails of Hillary Clinton have been quite a bit in the news, and she has been doing her emails across a personal server, and at a certain point there have been requests for her to provide those emails, and they've been magically lost. I guess I'm going to go on the record and say that we should, as people, be able to hold records, and when we are in possession and control of those records, they should be able to be truly in our possession and in our control. If those records involve others, then sure, you can pull into a subpoena action. If it is a company or a corporation or a group or something like that, I don't think that you should necessarily do those things. But I guess that goes to if you lock your doors, if you do the base of security, you ought to be able to secure the emails that you have coming up. You should be able to secure the conversations that you have. If one did not put a lock and key, a PGP key, some sort of encryption upon those emails, and did not take the due diligence when they were making that correspondence, then I don't think that there is a assumption of I don't think that there should be an assumption of privacy. But if someone takes the time, energy, and effort to encrypt, to protect, to intentionally put that email in a way that it is not obvious to others, then their privacy really should exist. And this concept that the public good knows all and should be able to reach into every single one of every single conversation is not one that I really support. So although I'm not a fan of Hillary, do not generally like what she does, do not generally like how she goes about things, I have to support her ability to have her own private server. And if her own private server and her security measure is that it self-destructs, although I don't like it, it is what it is, and I have to support her ability to do that because I believe in the freedom and I believe in the ability for us as humans to be able to maintain our own privacy. And our own privacy goes into another thing that's been in the news recently, which is the privacy that has been infringed upon by hackers, if you will, at Ashley Madison. Ashley Madison being a website for, quote unquote, people to cheat, where people who are married get to go and find other people who are married, and self-assured destruction means that they won't tell anybody and they're able to have affairs, et cetera, et cetera. I think their punchline was, life's too short to not have an affair. And so all of that being said, they have been hacked and hacked again and released and all these kinds of things. And effectively, things that weren't legal, weren't done legally, are now being released into the public. And that public knowledge and that public exposure of those illegally and illicitly got data points are now coming down to haunt individuals, are coming down, one of the Duggars from the 12 Plus Me or whatever it is, the TLC show about all of the Duggars and how many babies they have. One of them who was looking for a little on the side came out in in the endeavor for Ashley Madison and is now getting public backlash about this. But it was illegally gotten. But yes, it's just in public opinion, so he's not legally in trouble. But that's a big influence on somebody's life, and I guess that's the worry moving forward, is that there's a lot of groups. There are many different organizations that control our data, and some of that data we'd like to have possession of, and some of it we don't really care too much about. But what is important and what is important now may, or what is not important now, may end up being important later. And so if that data is not maintained by our own security, by our own paying attention to, then what happens 50 years from now? Well, I posted this thing on Facebook in 2001 and I didn't think anything of it, but now I'm trying to get a job and it was me holding up a racist sign whenever I was in college. Now, everybody at that time understood it, knew it, whatever. I'm not saying that I did this, but you do something that could be construed, when not in context, in a very bad light. But when it's in context, it's not a big deal. Are we as a society going to grow up about all of this and say, well, everybody does stuff and you got to look at the context of it? Or are we going to continue this concept of sacrificial lambs and people being crucified for the concepts of what they did? I hope that we grow up from the fappening with the whole Jennifer Lawrence thing, and she goes, you know what? I have boobs. I have other female parts, just like every other woman out there. Now you've seen them. You have proof that I am truly a woman. Can we move on now? Is that going to exist, or are we going to continue this concept where, oh, well, once this has happened, now you can't be the person you were before because some other release has happened? Don't know, can't really say. So that's my thought, is that Hillary should be able to have her email server, and if her security policy is that it self-destructs, then that's what it is. There you go. Speaking of things that have self-destructed, that takes us to the stock market. Over the last week, on Friday, I believe it was, we had a 530-point drop in the stock market, which is the 9th largest point drop that the stock market has ever had. And over the week, there has been over 1,000 points where the stock market has dropped. Is that a thing? Should we worry about this? Is that something to be concerned about? You know, I don't know. Don't know. I think that the stocks have been on quite an upswing, on quite a rise, on quite a push over the last number of years. And so to say that one day or 1 week worth of correction is necessarily bellwether for some sort of terrible pattern that will develop, I couldn't really say that. I would more say that that's one of the ebbs and flows that happens when you're in an investment. An investment inherently has risk, and fortune favors the bold. So be bold and buy. I think I'm going to buy some Bitcoin today. Maybe I should do that. Ooh, maybe I should put on my thirds. I think I might have just seen another piece of thirds drop in here. Is that my illustrious friend from New York?
Certainly is.
Oh, well, hello and good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I will do it any time. You can be involved anytime you like.
Oh, thank you. What have I missed?
I went over a couple of random things, and so if you can peruse those topics, if anything there strikes your fancy. Trump Carson, good ticket or bad ticket? Presidential ticket. Trump Carson. Ben Carson and Donald Trump.
Oh, Ben Carson, not Johnny Carson. I was like,
Ben Carson, because they're both outside characters. Trump being just, quite the jester, and Carson not really being politically polished at all.
If I'm to be honest and speak pragmatically, it'd be terrible as a functioning unit, because the reality is, that's why I always, if you're a governor,
Hmm.
It's great, but you should probably get a VP who at least knows how the Hill works.
Right.
It always helps to have someone who kind of balances out. I mean, Kennedy, Johnson. Johnson was obviously such a power broker in the Hill that Kennedy could lean on him.
Right. When he needed to get something done.
Has that muscle. So I think there's something to be said about being outside, but you need something in your back pocket that's going to help you leverage.
So then who should be his VP candidate?
Are you
If you were to
seriously?
pick a Trump ticket right now, who would support Donald Trump?
Oh, I don't know. Geez, I mean, he'd probably get the only one I can think of who might Ted Cruz.
But with the craziness that Trump is, would he want Ted Cruz? Would Cruz want him?
I don't know. Well, he's crazy too. So
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. It would have to be someone who, because because no establishment person is going to join him because
Right.
they'd
And
be
Carly
right.
Fiorina is the other one that they had mentioned
Right. Oh, as a potential
as a potential VP for Trumpy.
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 It makes me think of the MST3K had there was a famous Mystery Science Theater 3000. There was a famous movie they did, Pod People, and the creature was called Trumpy.
Oh, yeah?
I love you, Trumpy. I love you, Billy. I'll kill you last. That's random nerd trivia for the people.
Oh, that is great.
Yeah.
Okay, so a U.S. birthright, right? So in the
Yes.
news, both Carson and Trump were quoted in conversations about the U.S. birthright, anchor babies, and this whole concept. One was Ben Carson was given a hard time about using the statement anchor babies, as that is a racial slur to some, which I agree with Ben in that is bullshit, and that there is no reason that should be considered a racial slur, right? Anchor babies doesn't have anything to do with race, and that somebody's being too particular if they're thinking that that's a racial slur. It may be a social slur, but don't think that it's a racial slur, right?
Yeah, but when someone says that word, they're not talking about, in their mind, they don't have Irish immigrants who happen to be here, and they're talking about people from more southerly lies.
Okay, and that goes directly to what I'm talking about, right? So if you talk about the Irish in the 1880s, 1890s, when they came over during the Irish potato famine and had very similar concepts where they didn't necessarily have correct paperwork in all cases to be here legally. Many of them just kind of got over here and then had families, and those families ended up parking. But in that day and age, the amount of time it took to come from another country into the United States was very significant. The amount of time, energy, and effort when those laws for naturalization were founded, written, and conceptualized, they had no idea you'd be able to fly from literally around the world from Singapore in an afternoon and get here.
But I'm
to
gonna.
give birth.
It may physically take longer in the 19th century to get here, but to get here legally
Yes.
it's caught up in that
Oh
sense.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, the
It is
ridiculousness of
insane to get here legally, but if you get here illegally and you have a baby, the baby's here legally all of a sudden.
right.
And so my concept here is that rule, because physically it takes you much less time, energy, and effort to get here, to have a baby that is naturalized U.S., is that burden. Because originally the burden of naturalization was you'd have to sit on a boat for 7 days to come over here from Ireland to have your baby over here while you're pregnant. If you really wanted your baby to be here that much, then fine, we'll give it to you. You know what I mean?
You didn't have to conceive the child in Ireland for them. You could have
No,
conceived
no.
it here.
You could conceive it here. You could, but
Or on the boat trip. I mean, there's not much
or
to
on the
do.
boat
So.
trip. That's correct. So, but my point is that if you're going through a trial that's that difficult to come over, then and people with money that were able to ride first class didn't have an issue getting legal citizenry back in those days, and probably don't have huge issues with it today. People with deep pockets don't have that kind of problem. And so my question is it antiquated in its application because of the different ways that we travel in today's world?
Let's also just put a little bit of a correction. I think we're talking in wrong numbers. In the early 19th century, it took about 6 weeks to cross the Atlantic.
6 weeks.
Yeah, this is not. Yeah, the ships were much better than the ones that Columbus and his ilk, which I think it probably took them a few months to take.
Okay, but still,
cross.
6 weeks. That's a month and a half at sea.
It was probably even shorter in the late 19th century.
Okay, so
Now-
it's 4 weeks. 4 weeks at sea. That's significant.
Can we?
It's not 4 hours like it is now.
Can we? Let's take a step back and
Okay.
and say something that's more pragmatic and practical about this, and it's like really looking forward. You're not repealing the 14th Amendment.
No.
And I think to let this stand on its legs and be an issue to this is me, regardless of your opinion on
All right.
the
Yeah.
issue of birth citizenship at birth. This isn't happening. This isn't happening in someone's election platform and going to happen. No. So it's almost like it just feels like it's white noise whenever someone starts to talk about it. Also, I find it really funny that a man who is a presidential candidate who was born in Canada is talking about citizenship.
Who is this? Was
Ted
Trump?
Cruz.
Oh,
Ted
Ted
Cruz.
Cruz was born in Canada.
Born in Canada.
Oh.
Yeah. So I just there's something there that I haven't teased out that I'm just like. So
There's something fishy about that.
can I question your citizenship?
That's right.
He's born to American parents, but in Canada.
Ah.
He has renounced in subsequent years. He has renounced his Canadian citizenship because he was a dual citizen.
This world. But I don't blame him for being a dual citizen. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that.
No.
I don't think that somebody who's running for president, I guess when they're running for president, they should renounce their dual citizenry, but it's not a huge one.
And this is a country where we won't elect. It'll probably be a few centuries before we elect an atheist.
Yeah.
So if you got to believe in God and country. So if there's
That's
any
right.
question of your allegiance, I mean that's why Kennedy, was the first one to have that major talk because there was concern that as a Catholic, he might have split allegiance, and so it might be no.
The Pope is going to, I know, it's ridiculous today, but it was very real at that moment.
Yeah.
And I guess that brings up, you missed me saying this, but this is my favorite part of the presidential process, is when there is a bounty of candidates, and everybody gets to say something off the wall so that they get on Fox News first or the next thing. And so there's lots and lots of ideas that are floating around out there.
Yeah.
And you get lots of different things to talk about. When it gets later in the process, there's much fewer ideas that are bountied and bantered around. They just kind of get down to the brass tacks, and there's
Right.
6 issues that everybody pounds on every single day. And it's like, right now you get a lot more concepts of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Well,
got
yeah,
a
'cause
drone.
You got a drone.
I got a drone.
Get
It's very
out.
small.
Yeah.
I should go grab it for you. Very
It's
small.
not the size of your drone that matters. It's how
I know.
you use
It's how many axes is it stabilized on. This one has a 6-axis stabilizer.
it. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Um,
$30 done.
$30.
$30.
Strong enough to hold a camera.
Yes.
Ooh. Neat.
Yeah.
You gonna
So-
fly it outside or inside the apartment?
I did both.
Yeah.
Small enough that you could fly it inside the apartment. Large enough that it could survive a little bit as long as there's not heavy winds outside. So I put it up
Okay.
on the roof, and it does a stabilization, so it picks out what is flat whenever you start it out. So the roof is not exactly perfectly flat and
Oh.
level.
Yeah.
Therefore, when it does its calibration, it's off just a little bit, so then it drifts, and you're fighting against the drift the whole time. And you're like, damn it, curses!
You need to take a large pan of water, pail of water, and then put something on top of the water
That floats.
and then put the put the drone on top of that, like a baking sheet in a kiddie pool or something.
Well, what happens if there's waves?
You'd have to wait for it to totally settle out. I'm trying to help you out here, man. I'm trying to give you
what they say is put sheets of paper underneath it until it's not there, and I'm like, okay.
Oh yeah, the old coasters under the
yeah,
the
exactly.
That's
all right.
funny.
So let's see. Is there any other topics that I have not spoken of? Did you lose any money in the stock market last week as stocks plunged 1,000 points?
Most assuredly, I did. I have not checked. One of my promises to be an adult, now that I'm approaching 1 year married, is to do a better job of monitoring my investments. I'm really bad at it. I'm really I invest. I have a 401k and I also have an IRA that I invest in separately. But I'm bad at like monitoring what it's investing in and seeing what the returns are.
They say if you are a casual investor, you should not look at your investment portfolio more often than about every 3 months, and realistically about every 6 months.
Sure.
Because if you do it any more frequently than that, you're going to be chasing returns and screwing yourself up.
Oh no, yeah, no, I'm not. I have no aspirations of turning myself into a day trader or something stupid like that. No. But I would like to. I get my quarterly statements or something, but it's like, what am I doing with that information?
Right.
How am I looking at what it said in the previous quarter, and I'm really looking at, because I and also, do I need to collapse down? Because I feel like several years ago, the brokerage we used changed, and so or some of the funds changed, so they merged some into others, and some I had to I feel like I have like it in 10 different pools. And so I might need to look at kind of winnowing that down.
And it's hard to know what pool to put it in and where to put that pool and all of it. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I'm young enough that I try to be moderately aggressive. I'm not aggressive, but at this age you can
afford to be aggressive,
to foul up or try
to
chase the larger return.
That's right.
Yeah. So what about you? Did you lose big?
Oh, I haven't even looked. I literally only look once a year at the stuff that I actually have invested. And then whenever I hear something that I want to go after, I'll jump on adding to. But I try not to move anything that I do except for once a year. Just because I know myself enough to know that you don't want to muck with it too much.
No.
Because if you're going for, well, I can be in this for 3 months, then what'll happen in my life is I'll get busy during those 2 months intermittent, forget about it in the third month, will have made money in 3 months, but didn't get out of it, then it goes back down and I lose all of what I gained.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
You got to know when to leave the casino, because what is the stock market other than the largest casino in the world?
I disagree. Because en masse, if you go in every day to the casino and put down your money every day in the casino, you will lose. If you go into the stock market every day and you're prudent, and when you go into the casino, whether you're prudent or frivolous, you're going to lose money eventually, right? If you go into the stock market and you're prudent, you'll make some money, always. Over the long, long, long haul. You don't agree with that?
I know I know what you're saying, and I agree with parts of it, but I don't have 100% faith. I mean, one need only look back to the crash of '29 to know that horrific things can happen.
But if you had left your money in the crash of '29, by 1940, you would have had all of your money back and doubled it. Just left your money alone. Do not lose any of that.
That's fine if you're 30 going into 1930, but if you're 70 going
right.
into 1930.
That's right.
Game over, man.
Right.
Game over
That's correct.
because you don't have the.
You don't have the time to get corrected.
Yeah.
Yep. That's correct. Do you see that Tim Tebow played a little last night?
Was it last night?
Yeah.
What happened?
He played a little. I think he might have gotten a touchdown running.
Oh God.
So
I'm, as many of you viewers out there know, Jeff and I both attended the University of Florida, where Tim Tebow, and we weren't there when Tim Tebow was there. He came after us. Tim Tebow,
he really had us vet the university for him.
Yeah, exactly.
We were in cahoots, and he asked if we thought that it was a good enough college for him to go to, and we said it was.
When Tebow arrived, he drove the moneylenders out of the temple, like Jeff and I. Biblical humor.
Which, by the way, if you're interested, Jimmy Carter, who just got they said he has cancer now. He still did his Bible study group this morning in South Georgia. So he still teaches Bible class every Sunday morning.
I think that's
okay. Back to it.
Yeah. So Tim Tebow has had he was a lovely college player.
He was.
It's
very
great,
successful.
Fun, great, very successful. I'm just ready for this whole NFL thing to be over because it frustrates me because even though I'm a fan and so many of our friends are Florida fans, that we get lumped in with the delusional people that for some reason it's like he's become it's people need for him on some level to succeed because it's going to be some kind of validation of
Christianity.
It's something. It's like it's so tiresome. And also, it seems like it's people who I'm like, have you ever watched the NFL? Obviously, you don't understand that he can't do this.
Yeah, but it would be great if he could.
It would be really sweet if he could. But he
Tom, I'm just going to tell you one thing, right?
Yeah.
He puts butts in seats. Tim Tebow, if you'd say to the world that he's going to play on Sunday, people will show up to the game.
The NFL is coming off of its, every year it makes more and more money and has higher and higher returns. I don't think they have a problem with putting butts in seats. Maybe he should go play. Maybe he should go play Major League Soccer.
They will have people watch the game. But my point is that at the end of this, it's not about winning games. It's about making people watch. Right? That's what the business is. The NFL is professional, which means that they're there to make money. And the best way to make money is to have more people watch or be involved in the games. And if they can sell each ticket for $5 more because Tim Tebow's on that team and people want to go watch it, and if he takes 10 snaps or 20 snaps a game so that people show up, how much is that really hurting your team?
Well, I'm not an Eagles fan, so yeah, let them start. I'd say a 2-14 Eagles team. That's awesome. Super. Let's do this. Make this happen. I'm all for Tebow now. You've converted me, for not for the reasons you think.
That's right.
Oh my God.
It is what it is. All right.
How about this whole this story out of France on the high-speed train and the takedown of the guy with a machine gun? It's crazy.
I know very little about it, except for apparently there were 2 Americans that took him down.
3 Americans and a Brit.
3 Americans.
Yeah, it was like you read the descriptions and it's like an action sequence. I mean, one guy charging him, the guy's gun jams, he puts him in a chokehold, he starts to and throws away his other gun. The guy whips out a box cutter, starts slashing at him, nearly cutting off his thumb in the process. Meanwhile, the other 2 friends run up and start pummeling him, and then the Briton comes in and gets him from behind. They basically knock him out cold.
Wow.
And, it's just like, damn. All while the train's, flying at high speeds.
Oh, wow.
From Amsterdam to Paris. Yeah.
Wow.
So go Team America, World Police.
Yeah, that's right, America. Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Well, that's very good news.
Exactly. Unlike,
I'm
and I
glad to hear it.
haven't looked this up, but I was hearing yesterday a story about a hotel in Turkey that the staff decided to do a prank. And so, what kind of prank do you think they did on the customers at their hotel?
Whoopee cushions inside the chairs at the breakfast table.
So close, so close. They went with option B, which was dress up in ISIS style attire and
What?
proceed to do a fake attack on guests at the pool, which included running up to
What?
one guest with a container that said fuel, pouring the contents on a British patron of the hotel, and then producing a lighter. Yeah, I gotta look up the hotel.
Oh God, that's great.
Look
That
up
is
the,
great. In the way that, like, people peeing on themselves is
and
great.
mind you, this was a 5-star hotel, the Grand Yazisi Meres Hotel in Izmir, Turkey. Men dressed in traditional Arab clothing and brandishing imitation guns appeared at a hotel poolside, sparking fears of a terrorist attack. This is coming not that long after an actual terrorist attack in Tunisia against tourists at a pool.
Wow.
I just don't. Only 6 weeks after that, and 38 people were killed, 30 of whom were British.
I mean, this is a very pretty hotel. Grand
Yeah,
Yazisi.
it's a 5-star hotel.
Turban.
This isn't Motel 6.
Wow, this is beautiful. I want to go there.
Uh, Rooms will probably be really cheap now.
That's what I'm thinking.
And this place is only like 200 miles from the border with Syria.
Wow.
ISIS occupied Syria. I just, I don't understand. I mean, I love pranks.
Yes,
love-
but there
I
is
love
tasteful
jokes.
pranks and there's not tasteful pranks.
And I don't know how many guys were involved in this, but don't you think one guy's gonna be like,
Hey,
Hey, guys.
this is kind of messed up.
This seems a little on the wrong side. You guys sure about this?
yeah,
This day, man.
this day and age we live in, man.
I cannot believe it.
Yeah.
All right, well, I actually have friends that are on their way into town.
Oh.
Adam's dad is on the way into town, so we might try and go catch lunch. So
Nice.
I am going to do a little bit of that. And I thank you for joining me here on the podcast
I'm
under the
so glad I
shadow
got to
of the
catch you.
Gold Dome. And look forward to doing it again. It has been a fortnight since I have seen you, Tom.
Oh no, that's true.
An
That's
entire
true.
fortnight.
We
So,
just missed. Oh, and we've got a late comer just to say hello.
a
and
late
goodbye.
bloomer. Just to say hello, shalom.
No, it's always good to see you. And I'm excited to see footage of your drone in action. And when do you hook up the camera and start taking some?
This one doesn't have a camera
doesn't
on
have a
it.
port? Yeah.
But I'm going to get another one because this one, I said, you know what? Do I want to buy the more expensive one right now because it's $60 instead of $30
Yeah.
with the camera on it? And I said, well, actually, why don't I get one that I'm just going to beat up and destroy,
As
and
you
then I'll
learn
get
how to,
one
like,
right so that I'll
good-
have an
good-
understanding
good
of how
idea.
to run it,
Good
and
idea.
then go onto the more awesome one. So that's the thought. And this
Yeah.
one will also be good spare parts for the other one since they are on the same platform. So.
You and toys. So you got the drones, motorcycle.
Are you going to call it my
Are you
midlife
a
crisis?
spy? Are you a spy? 'Cause
What?
this feels very much like a espionage type scenario. Yes, we are very good looking, Ziggy.
Oh, we are good looking.
Men.
Hey,
Yeah.
good looking, what you got a cooking? How's about cooking something good for me?
He's good looking. He's got a motorcycle, drone. You are Archer.
I am.
Yeah,
Archer. I don't even know who that is.
He's from the show Archer.
Which I've never seen.
Oh, you're missing out, man. You'd actually like that show.
All right. Well, I will look it up. And next week we will discuss it as whether or not I've looked at it and seen it.
Great.
So, all right. Well, we'll talk to you again next week. And when you go through this week and you think about these things that we've talked about, you don't have to think like me.
And you don't have to think like me.
But we ask that you, as our audience, as our illustrious and wonderful audience, do think.